aid, the concept of foreign assistance, is not a popular program in the United States. That is a well-known fact. But I cannot think of any action which is more important as a leading power in the free world is involved in your work directly. The people who are opposed to aid should realize that this is a very powerful source of strength for us. It permits us to exert influence for the maintenance of freedom. If we were not so heavily involved, our voice would not speak with such vigor. And as we do not want to send American troops to a great many areas where freedom may be under attack, that is why every president of the United States since 1947, President Truman, President Eisenhower, and myself have strongly supported this effort. It represents a very essential national commitment. It is a burden, but far less than the burden that would be involved to us directly if we did not have this program. This is a tremendous source of influence for a president of the United States in exerting the power of this country in a way which serves our security and the long-range security of the countries that are involved. If we did not have this program, our voice would not be as distinct. But the American people, though they may not like it, in my judgment, they support it. I think that the good sense, even though the superficial opinions may be against it, the good sense of the American people in the final analysis have supported this program for 15 years, more than any other country in the free world. We hope other countries who have benefited from our assistance, who are now more prosperous, will do more themselves. But we have to continue to do our part.
America has always been a generous nation. After World War II, we helped rebuild Europe. We helped countries like Taiwan and South Korea rise from poverty, turning them into self-sufficient, thriving democracies. That's how USAID is supposed to work. But when JFK created USAID 60 years ago, there's no way he could have predicted what was coming. Back then, America was thriving. A house cost $12,000, a car priced in the hundreds. Today, everything is 10 times more expensive. So the economy didn't just shift, it buried the average American under skyrocketing cost. Even in his own time, JFK admits foreign aid wasn't popular. But what did he really think USAID was for? Helping others, yes, but also something more. JFK called it America's foothold in the world, a way to expand influence. And at the time that made sense. We were locked in a Cold War, fighting communism, measuring power in nukes. But the Cold War is over. Or is it?
USAID is our way to combat the Belt and Road Initiative. So we need an aid program to match the Chinese effort, but it needs to be done in a way that the policymakers of the United States have decided ought to be done.
That was Senator Wicker, and what he's saying, it echoes exactly what JFK said. USAID isn't about charity, it's about control, influence, and projecting power, especially now as the US competes with China's Belt and Road Initiative. JFK wouldn't have known that China would be our biggest adversary today, but the system, it still operates for the same reason. And yet, as Senator Wicker points out, something is off.
But it needs to be done in a way that the policymakers of the United States have decided ought to be done.
That sounds like a warning, because if US aid is being run the way it ought to be, why would he need to say that? Congress signs the budget, but they don't oversee every decision. So if the people we elected aren't running the show, who is?
Suddenly in your inbox, find a termination notice that you didn't expect to get on a flawed predicate that you're doing radical leftist insubordination. It's pretty jarring. And because there's so many lies and falsehoods circulating, and so many claims that people are sort of not with the program, I think people are just completely dislocated. There's no stable ground on which to walk. And then, of course, Most of them have been laid off. The people who work at USAID did not come to work at USAID for the money. They came to USAID because they wanted to make a difference in the world, because they saw America's interests as tied up with the interests of people, vulnerable people around the world.
I'm eager to see an audit and see the sort of mismanagement that the Secretary of State has told us about today. If there's massive fraud, if the funds aren't being directed where the Congress has appropriated and the President has signed, then we need to know about that. So I'm actually in a fact-finding mood.
I have been on USAID's case for years now, going back several years, where I was trying to investigate the expenditures for humanitarian aid, primarily when it came to the war in Ukraine. And what my team and I encountered was absolute obstruction and lies coming out of USAID. They did everything possible to stop me from accessing their records to understand where our taxpayer money was going. I eventually partnered with Representative Mike McCall in the House, and we started a formal congressional investigation. And even after that, they really pushed back, only allowed us access to a small amount of data. But what we found was extreme expenditures on the part of USAID with very little data-driven results.
Senator Ernst is making some strong claims. She has been in Congress for nearly a decade, so maybe she deserves to, but when she tried to get answers from USAID, she was met with roadblocks, missing records, and subversion, as she mentioned. Every time she's trying to figure out where did our taxpayer dollars go, there seems to be more questions than answers. But hang on, let's take a step back. Because up to this point, there's been nothing but contradiction. Senator Wicker said USAID is vital, but not running as Congress intended. Samantha Powers said USAID is transparent and effective, but Joni Ernst is saying USAID is dodging oversight, refusing to provide records, and wasting our taxpayer dollars. So someone has to be lying, and someone has to be telling the truth, right? Well, I think I have just the man who wants to find out, Senator Rand Paul.
Ms. Powers, did USAID fund coronavirus research in Wuhan, China?
We did not fund gain-of-function research,
That's not the question.
As you know.
The question is, did you fund coronavirus research in Wuhan, China?
Before my time, there was the PREDICT program with which you're familiar, which ended in China in 2019.
Now, this is a $200 million program, and the GAO has also identified that some of these grants went directly to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where there is a suspicion that the lab leak began the pandemic. Has USAID awarded funds to the Academy of Military Medical Sciences in China?
Not to my knowledge, but I'd have to get...
I think the answer is once again yes. GAO has found that there have been subawards of NIH money as probably as well as USAID money that went to the Academy of not just medical research, military medical research in China. Now, part of the unknowns here is we can't get the records to look at this.
So let me get this straight. When he asks her about USAID grants, she seemingly has no idea. Either USAID doesn't know where their money is going, or they don't want us to know. And that's a big problem, especially when they keep asking for millions more in grants with no accountability. So what else are they refusing to reveal? Turns out we don't have to guess, because this debate is far from over.
So I've been asking for months and months for records. In September of last year, I wrote Ms. Powers, USAID, a request asking for records from the PREDICT program. These are not classified. These are simply records of scientific research, and we want to read the grants to find out what they were doing and whether the research was dangerous or not. The response I got from your agency was USAID will not be providing any documents at this time. They're just unwilling to give documents on scientific grant proposal. We're paying for it. They're asking for $745 million more in money, and we get no response. So 2 weeks ago, the ranking member, Risch, myself, and 25 other Republican senators, unfortunately, so far, signed a letter once again. It's still no response. We're not asking for classified information. We're not asking for anything unusual. 20 million people died around the world. You're supposed to be an agency that cares about the death of people around the world. We, talk about starvation and famine, and 20 million people died from a virus, and you won't give us the basic information about what grants you're funding around the world and who you're funding. Should we be funding the Academy of Military Medical Research in China? They're now off limits. But did we fund them? And who was making the decision? You know who ran the PREDICT program? UC Davis. Have you had any conversations with UC Davis about research in China and whether it was advisable?
The PREDICT program ended in 2019. We have people...
And yet it goes on in other forums and other names.
That's certainly not USAID program.
Well, you have a program called Emergency Pandemic Threats Program still, don't you?
We have provided hundreds and hundreds of pages of documents related to the PREDICT program for the very reason that you say, because we are...
Not to us.
We are consistent with longstanding practice.
Not going to give them to us.
Responsive to the committees of jurisdiction, including the Senate.
And not giving us any information.
That's not true.
But what you're
we've
saying
provided
is,
hundreds of pages in response to the Karen ranking. To the Senate, Homeland Security, and Government Affairs Committee, for example.
I'm on that committee as well. The thing is what we get from you and from the State Department at large is that if Senator Menendez signs it, you'll give it documents. Until then, you'll give us nothing. And we have got nothing, zero. You said will not be providing any documents. I now have 25 senators have sent you a letter, and you aren't responding. And we want to see the scientific grants. We give you the money, the taxpayers give you the money. We deserve to know where the money went, whether it happened. Look, you're right, it ended in 2019. When did the virus come about? In about 2019. Some of the research proposals that came about in 2018 were Wuhan Institute of Virology asking for money to create a virus with a furin cleavage site in it, a coronavirus, a SARS-like virus with a furin cleavage site. That's exactly what COVID turned out to be. They wanted money to create such a virus. So we want to know, are there other research proposals that you either granted or denied that were on the same veins of creating viruses that could have become COVID-19? We can't tell because you won't give us the information.
Again, we consistent with longstanding practice, we are providing extensive documentation. We have a whole team of people who do nothing other than look back and predict.
That is not true.
It is factually accurate.
That is not true. Everything we have asked, we have not gotten. I have not seen one document on the PREDICT program.
I understand that, again, consistent with common practice
consistent
across
that you're not going to give it to any senator.
No. We're providing all of the kinds of documentation that you're
describing. You are not. You're being dishonest. You're being dishonest.
I'm not.
We haven't gotten one scrap of paper from you. Not one scrap of paper.
With the committees of jurisdiction, we are providing all of the paperwork that
you are not
requested by the
I'm on the other committee. I'm the ranking member on the other committee, and I haven't seen a scrap of paper from that committee either.
Well, that is.
See, here's what the American people.
I can't tell you what happens at the committee.
The American people think this, that because you won't respond, because you respond with a non-response, that you have something to hide. I don't know if you have anything to hide or not. I want to see every grant proposal that had to do with coronaviruses that went to China from the U.S. government, from all facets of the U.S. government, and every bit of the Biden administration is stonewalling us and will not give us the information. It makes us think and makes us suspicious that you're hiding something. And it wasn't even you. This was the previous administration. We go back 2 or 3 administrations. We just want to see the information, and yet you sit there and you say we will do something, we are doing something, which is absolutely the opposite of the truth. You are not being honest.
USAID should be proud of the good work they do, and if they're an agency built entirely on goodwill, then why would it be so hard to get a straight answer from their top administrator? Samantha Powers had every opportunity to explain. Instead, we got bureaucracy, deflections, and more questions than answers again. And then there's Rand Paul. Love him or hate him, he's one of the most diligent senators in Congress, and he's respected across the aisle. He's not a partisan hack. And yet even he hasn't seen the documents USAID claims to have provided. So they're not answering to Congress, and they're not answering to us, the taxpayers who fund them. So who are they going to answer to? We spent this whole time proving one thing. Subversion in USAID is real. From evasions to missing records to bureaucratic runarounds and multiple calls for investigation, this isn't just inefficient, it's starting to look deliberate. That alone should be a scandal. So why isn't it?
I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. It's extremely dangerous to our democracy.
We have seen money funded in the Wuhan Institute of Virology through dollars steered by USAID on dangerous coronaviruses. We saw how that turned out. We've seen funding going to Morocco for pottery classes, tourism in Lebanon, of all places, even when the State Department was advising against travel. I could go on and on and on.
And there are so many abuses of AID. I found out that AID has given money to support the World Economic Forum. Why would the United States taxpayer be subsidizing the World Economic Forum when everybody that arrives over there arrives in a Gulfstream G5?
USAID awarded over $750,000 to fund alleviating loneliness among migrant garment workers in India. Does this advance America's interests, Governor?
No.
No. I have no position.
USAID awarded $1.5 million for providing a gender-sensitive response to migration at the Venezuelan border. Does this advance America's interests, Governor?
No.
No. I have no position.
Okay, so USAID awarded $4.3 million on October 1st, 2023 to a group to fund comprehensive health services for men having sex with other men in South Africa. Does this advance the interests of American citizens, Governor?
No.
No. I have no position.
I bet you don't. Okay. USAID awarded $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities by promoting economic empowerment and opportunity for LGBTQI plus people in Serbia. Does this advance America's interests?
No.
No. Nope.
You have no idea, right? Okay.
That was a lot, and it might feel overwhelming, and frankly it should, because that wasn't politics, that wasn't spin, that was exactly how our taxpayer dollars are being spent. And if you don't believe us, good, you shouldn't. You should think critically and look it up for yourself, and you can do that on usaspending.gov. But what we just showed you, that was just the surface. There's so much more. Now, you clicked on this video because of Elmo in Iraq, right? Well, here's your payoff. Before we show you more examples of how your tax dollars are being spent, let's take an ironic moment of happiness and show you the Al Simsim program, which just means Welcome Sesame. This is the Iraqi adaptation of Sesame Street, funded in part by USAID. And for a moment, let's just enjoy it before we talk about how 20 million taxpayer dollars went into funding this. Here it is.
افتح يا سمسم. افتح يا سمسم أبوابك نحن الأطفال. افتح واستقبل أصحابك نحن الأطفال. افتح يا سمسم أبوابك نحن الأطفال. افتح واستقبل أصحابك نحن الأطفال. لا 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 لا. لا 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 لا. افتح افتح نفرح نفرح. افتح ما تجينا حيينا دنيانا جمال. لا 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 لا. لا 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 لا. افتح يا سمسم أبوابك نحن الأطفال. افتح واستقبل أصحابك نحن الأطفال.
That was nice, wasn't it? Sesame Street has brought joy to kids for decades, and after everything that kids in Iraq have endured, they deserve happiness too. But here's the thing. Before USAID ever stepped in, a private organization had already provided $100 million in funding. That was the MacArthur Foundation, a philanthropist group. So I don't care if rich guys want to play superhero and get a tax write-off at the same time, but why did USAID step in with another $20 million in taxpayer money? Was it out of generosity or out of guilt? Because let's be real, Iraq didn't end up in ruins on its own. And for what it's worth, I'm actually glad that we help kids in conflict areas, especially considering we start most of the wars that affect them. Those decisions made by bureaucrats and warmongers, things that they really can't even fathom, especially not control. But I'm not okay with spending a single dollar while the citizens of America struggle and barely make ends meet. I want to remind you that a majority of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So $20 million to kids to enjoy shows? Sure, I guess, but not in these circumstances. Not at the cost of my countrymen. And if USAID can pour millions into projects that were already paid for, what happens when they take on things that actually matter? Things people actually depend on, like education, infrastructure, healthcare. The real issue isn't just that they're spending, it's how they're spending it, and what happens after the money is gone. Because sometimes our money doesn't just go to waste, it actively funds countries that work against US interests. Take Pakistan, a country known to be a safe haven for criminal organizations. Well, that same Pakistani government received $159 million from USAID while turning a blind eye to terrorism, or even directly funding extremist groups. So why are we sending our money to them? Well, in this next example, it's not a feel-good story like Al Simsim. This is a school in Karachi, Pakistan's largest city, where USAID funding was supposed to help children, but just wait until you see the reality.
Government primary school. ये यूएस की इमदाद से बनने वाला स्कूल है, यानी इसके अंदर सिंध गवर्नमेंट के पास इंटरनेशनल इमदाद के बाद ये स्कूल बनाया गया। इस स्कूल की सूरत हाल देखें, ये जो दावेदार है कि सिंध के अंदर इन्होंने बहुत तरक्की कर ली है, ये ठट्टा का अभी मैंने दौरा शुरू किया है, जिला ठट्टा कराची से बिल्कुल करीब मुतसिल। आप उसकी सूरत हाल देख लें कि ये स्कूल है, इसके अंदर ये टैक्स जो लगे हुए ये वो 25,000 रुपए वाले टैक्स हैं। ये 25,000 के टैक्स है, एक टैक्स 25,000 का जो सिंध गवर्नमेंट ने लिया था, ये वो टैक्स रखा हुआ है। लेकिन इस स्कूल की दरो दीवार फटी हुई है, खिड़की नहीं है, प्लास्टर उतरा हुआ है, ये टीचर की टेबल है।
Does that look like an environment for kids to learn anything in? Now for context, the $159 million was meant to build 106 quote-unquote climate-resistant schools.
ये सरकारी वसाइल हैं जो बर्बाद हो रहे हैं। ये ताला खोल रहे हैं सरकारी स्कूल का, ये ताला था सरकारी स्कूल पे लगा हुआ। और आइए ये देखें, ये सरकारी स्कूल है, ये बच्चों की छुट्टियों की है।
So let's do the math. 159 million. That's how much USAID allocated to Pakistan's government to build 106 schools. And this is what we get? A building with no windows, doors quote-unquote locked with strings, a roof that's collapsing. This isn't a school, this is a scam. But that's the problem, isn't it? There's no accountability. They take our tax dollars, they give it to foreign governments, and then they don't ask any questions. This doesn't help us, the American citizens, and it doesn't even help the people it was intended to. The only ones who benefited are the bureaucrats who made these decisions to curry favor, probably, and the middlemen who pocketed the money. This isn't just about wasteful spending anymore, this is a pattern where taxpayer dollars disappear into a black hole. A hole where money gets shuffled between governments, padded through bureaucracy, and reallocated into nothing. And Pakistan is far from the only example of this. This is how USAID operates, where billions of dollars vanish into broken projects with no oversight, no accountability. We have to ask, who is actually benefiting? Because in this next case, we're going to get closer to finding out. This is our final in-your-face example of this corruption, a case that not only shows us how the system works, but who abuses it the most, and somehow, it always leads back to the same type of people. Career bureaucrats, influence peddlers, power brokers who treat your tax dollars like their personal bank account.
I've been using usaspending.gov to look into the USAID spending over the last 4 years. And in the data here, I noticed that when you sort it by the size of payment, the largest payment, $6 billion, is to Chemonics International Inc. When you dig into the sub-awards that they're giving out, transporting pharmaceutical products all around the world to all sorts of developing nations, Chemonics International has earned $1.8 billion just in the last 12 months. But in all fiscal years, it looks like $17.3 billion. When you go to their website, their board of directors page no longer exists, which is kind of sus.
Yeah, that is suspicious, isn't it? A company getting billions in taxpayer dollars suddenly wipes its board of directors page just as this exposure begins. Almost as if they'd rather us not see something. And that's really the question here. Who's actually profiting from all of this? And to help us expose that, we turn to Ian Carroll. For those that don't know him, he's an independent journalist who specializes in OSINT. OSINT just stands for Open Source Intelligence, meaning he doesn't pull his data from something secretive or classified or from sources, how other investigative journalists do. He utilizes public records, government databases, and financial reports that are not hidden and available to everyone in the public. He's not tied to a corporation or a political party. He's just here to pull the receipts for us to think about. So don't take my word for it or his, just watch for yourself.
But when you plug it into archive.org, you can get access to their board of directors as of 2024. Wikipedia says that Chemonics is the largest for-profit recipient of U.S. government foreign aid. As of 2019, the company has approximately 5,000 employees. The firm offers capacity building, communications, corporate social responsibility, knowledge management, performance management, and appraisal and program design services. What does any of that mean? Remember, the top receiver of U.S. aid funding, and they offer a hodgepodge of corporate gobbledygook that doesn't really say anything. Then when you start looking up the company and find articles about them, you find articles like this one that state that, this is back in 2017, in the first quarter of 2017, only 7% of the health commodity shipments delivered through this program arrived at their destination on time and in full, meaning that 93% of the shipments they sent in that quarter either arrived incomplete or did not arrive within the 21-day window allotted and agreed to by the buyer.
So they take billions of dollars that USAID administrators granted them, and then only 7% of shipments arrive in the agreed-upon 21-day window. Now to play devil's advocate, maybe they got the deliveries done on the 22nd day or on the 23rd. I don't know, because ironically, that is impossible to find in any reports. Stick with me here though, this gets much deeper.
And then there's this article. It starts off by talking about this power plant in Afghanistan that these two firms, Black & Veatch and Lewisberger Group, got a government contract through USAID, and now it's producing 2% of the power it was intended to generate. So then the article goes on to explore a number of sort of aid misallocations of funds over the years. And it starts with Hillary Clinton's tenure at the State Department. The company CEO was indicted for siphoning money from USAID reconstruction contracts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Lewisberger, the firm that built that messed up power plant, they're represented by John Podesta and his lobbying group.
So while helping Hillary get elected as her campaign advisor, he then turned around and actually acted as a lobbyist for other groups to get these contracts. Now, wouldn't it be convenient to have friends in very high places when you're trying to convince someone else to pay you to make their deals?
And it goes on to talk about how Podesta was tasked to come up with these sustainable development goals for this Council of International Development Companies. And one of those companies is Chemonics. And they thrived during Clinton's tenure, nabbing more contracts during the Haiti reconstruction effort than any other company.
Well, would you look at that? Your friend is the Secretary of State. You're a lobbyist that's telling people that you can help them make deals. In fact, you're even in charge of making the criteria for the environmental causes. And then the very same company that you're lobbying gets the most contracts? Wow, what a record.
Clinton's then chief of staff was the point person Politico reported. It continued to win lucrative USAID contracts in 2011 in Afghanistan. The project was intended to create 300,000 jobs. By 2013, after 2 years, it had only created 2,458 jobs. In May 2009, it won a $90 million contract to grow exports and employment in the Pakistani economy. The USAID Inspector General found no measurable increase in sales or employment after the first 2 years of the project. If it's not apparent to you by now, this is the deep state. Out of these proxy companies, these non-government organizations, these charitable organizations, all these shadow kind of organizations that you don't know about, that we don't elect, that are some of them private, some of them public, all of them in the shadows, just wheeling and dealing billions and billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money that just goes into the black box of aid and then is never heard from again.
So whether it's Pakistan, Afghanistan, or even Elmo in Iraq, we seem to be giving money to everyone at the expense of the American citizen. This is how entrenched the bureaucracy at USAID has become. And Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and other career bureaucrats, they know exactly how to take advantage of this system. And obviously they don't tell you anything about that, because that would be inconvenient for them. It would be inconvenient for you to know the truth, and then actually take the truth with you to the polls. But at the same time, we have to be fair here and say USAID has existed for 60 years. John Podesta and Hillary Clinton are probably not the only people who've taken advantage of this. And to that end, I'm sure Republicans have also taken advantage of this. But, you know, there's only one side of the aisle today that's furious over the USAID exposure, which we'll get into in a minute. Before that, though, a huge thank you to Ian Carroll for his work. If you want more independent journalism, I highly recommend him. He does what our press refuses to. But we need to put an end to this chapter of corruption. And to do that, let's turn to the Louisiana roller coaster himself, Senator John Kennedy.
What the hell happened to all the money? But I'll tell you what Mr. Musk discovered, that the American taxpayers are giving money to Afghanistan, to Yemen, Syria. He found that the USAID gave money to support electric vehicles in Vietnam. Our money, taxpayer money. He found that USAID gave money to a transgender clinic in India. I didn't know that. I bet you the American people didn't know that. They found that USAID spent $164 million to support radical organizations around the world. He found that we gave $2 million, USAID did, for sex changes in Guatemala. He found that we gave $20 million to produce a new Sesame Street show in Iraq. He found that we gave $4.5 million of taxpayer money to combat disinformation in Kazakhstan. He found that we gave $10 million, USAID did, of meals to an al-Qaeda-linked terrorist group called the Nusra Front. Mr. Musk found that we gave $7.9 million of taxpayer money to a project that would teach Sri Lankan journalists to avoid binary gendered language. The USAID gave $1.5 million to promote LGBT advocacy in Jamaica. They gave $1.5 million to rebuild the Cuban media ecosystem. They gave $1.5 million for, quote, art for inclusion of people with disabilities in Belarus. Another $3.9 million for LGBT causes in Macedonia. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education in Nepal. I could go all night. And many of my colleagues are upset. They're really mad at Mr. Musk. Hell, I think we ought to give him a medal. I'm just shocked that my colleagues have decided that this is a hill they're going to die on. How can you look the American people in the eye and support this kind of waste? I call it spending porn.
We are not going to sit around while you go ahead and desecrate Constitution, or you look at the laws that have been passed into law and say, never mind, we'll just ignore that. Instead, we are going to be in your face, we are going to be on your asses, and we are going to make sure you understand what democracy looks like. This ain't it. So let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. And I'm gonna be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out, all right?
We will fight their violation of civil service laws. We will fight their violation of civil rights laws. We will fight their violations of separation of powers. We will fight their violations of our Constitution of the United States of America. We will not shut up.
I'm going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. We will win. We will win. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Elon Musk has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Elon Musk has got to go. Hey, hey. Ho, ho. Elon Musk has got to go. Hey, hey.
If Doge wins and our foreign aid is completely shut down, if Elon Musk wins and our foreign assistance completely ends, who will cheer and who will win? The cartels will win, terrorists will win, Russia will win, China will win. This effort is not efficient, it is not sane, it is not respectful, and it does not make America safe.
USAID was the first, but I can guarantee you it's not the last. If we allow this to happen, it's going to just start to happen at other departments and agencies. So this is likely just the tip of the iceberg.
They are not able to take the meeting currently. They advise that they will be in contact shortly and that best to contact the Department of State at this time if you need any further comments.
Who is they?
The front office of the administrator.
So could I just ask, are you with AID?
I am.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you for what you do.
Are the Doge people here? So there's no opportunity to...
No, unfortunately, I don't control that. I'm just here to pass along the information. Thank you for coming, and I'm sure Department of State will be putting out more information shortly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
They're very, very, very upset at President Trump. And they're very, very, very upset at Elon Musk. He said it almost every day. He said, if you elect me president, I'm going to go through the entire budget and review all the spending, line by line. If I heard him say that once, I heard him say it 1,000 times. And that's what he's been doing. But you know, I've listened. This has been going on for a week. People have been screaming like they're part of a prison riot. Oh my God, look at what Musk is doing. He's looking at the spending. But you know what? I haven't heard one single person who's upset with President Trump or Mr. Musk talk about what he's found. They don't want to talk about the spending porn, the waste of taxpayer money that he's found. I mean, that's the point of all this. I tell you who is interested. The American people.
You've just witnessed elected officials acting like the world is on fire. Screaming, chanting, making threats. And over what exactly? The exposure of waste, a demand for accountability, or the fact that someone finally asked, where did the money go? Make no mistake, this wasn't just outrage, this was fear. And yes, they're upset, but it's panic. It's unraveling of US aid threatening their standing, their routines, their network. This isn't about protecting Americans, it's about controlling and protecting their grip on a system that serves them. The entrenched bureaucracy protecting the entrenched bureaucrats. And yet through all that noise, not one of them mentioned the corruption. Not one. Not a single reference to the failed grants or the dilapidated schools or the subversion and lack of oversight, and especially no mention of other politicians taking advantage of the system. What exactly are they defending? Apparently just the idea that you shouldn't be allowed to ask. If you question USAID, you're evil. If you seek proof, you're the problem. Their argument isn't based in data or evidence or legislation, it's theater. Emotion standing in for facts and drama replacing transparency. So we're going to clear up some of those claims, like Senator Booker yelling about civil rights violations without naming a single one. No law cited, no evidence, just a volume. Or Senator Coons, who warned that terrorists would win without USAID, that China, Russia, and every bad actor would suddenly rise up, but failing to mention that USAID is not all of the foreign aid that we provide. USAID was never all of America's foreign aid. It's roughly 50%. And if there is a better way to secure our soft power from enemies like China, and there are better ways to support global stability, he didn't offer one. And maybe the most revealing thing of all, none of them denied corruption, none of them suggested reforms, none of them argued that anything was wrong. If everything was fine, would they really be this frantic? If the work was so noble, would they welcome scrutiny? Instead, they line up behind a podium to tell you that asking questions is dangerous. So let's pull the lens back. This isn't just about USAID. This was about exposure, and exposure breaks the spell. Because for 60 years, USAID operated in silence. And now someone decided to open the books. They say he broke the system, but maybe he just broke the silence. And it's all directed at one man.
Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk, Elon Musk,
Elon Musk!
Elon Musk, Elon Musk,
Elon Musk! Elon Musk! Elon Musk! Elon Musk! Elon Musk!
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk want to take control of the payment system. And we know why, because he made clear he wants to cut $2 trillion from our budget. There's not $2 trillion to cut unless you massively cut Social Security and Medicare, and that is what he's after. And now he has the ability to shut off your Social Security, Medicare, any payments he wants with the flip of a switch. Obviously, he has control of our information as well. He has broken the law time and time again. This cannot stand. He must be held accountable. He must be made to pay. We must enforce the law. Yeah.
Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Mark my words. The American people will not stand for an unelected, secret group to run rampant through the executive branch. That doesn't mean what's been done for centuries in this country should just go out the window and be substituted by a small group of people who think they know a lot more than the wisdom of the American people.
You've just heard the final note in the chorus of fear. But last I checked, the American people voted for change, and the president, like every president before him, has the right to appoint trusted advisors. Elon Musk happens to be one of them. Voters have never chosen the president's cabinet. They've never chosen the chief of staff or the head of USAID, and we've never chosen presidential advisors. That's not new, that's not a takeover, it's how the system has always worked. But Dave Min would rather have you believe that the only way to cut waste is to slash Social Security and Medicaid, as if there isn't anything else to trim. There is not another dime of waste in the largest government on earth. That's not realism, that's what failure sounds like when it wants to protect itself. And Chuck Schumer, meanwhile, is warning you about shadowy forces while standing in defense of the bureaucracy that hides spending, loses oversight, and resists scrutiny at every turn. There's no law being broken here, and I'm sure if there was, they would mention it at least once. This is no secret cabal. This is an administration finally looking at the books as they promised they would, unlike any previous presidency. Now let's clear the air. This video isn't about defending Elon Musk, but the truth is he didn't leak your private data or raid your bank account, and he's not hijacking the treasury, which the acting secretary will show you himself in a moment. What he's doing is asking where the money went, as he legally can with the powers granted to him by the President of the United States. And if you're still unsure who to believe, you're not wrong for questioning it. That's exactly what you should be doing. So kudos to you. Because if you've made it this far, you've earned something rare, a clear view of reality, but without the shouting and slogans, just testimony, oversight, and the truth spoken plainly by people who know where to look. Let's finish this.
There is widespread concern about the Doge team's access to sensitive payment systems. Are you worried at all that that access and that tinkering of the payment systems could affect the treasuries market or cause any disruption?
Good. Well, Saleha, thank you for asking me about that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. First of all, when you say the Doge team, these are Treasury employees. There's 2 Treasury employees, one of whom I personally interviewed in his final round. There is no tinkering with the system. They are on read-only. They are looking, they can make no changes. It is an operational program to suggest improvement. 0.3 billion payments a year, and this is 2 employees who are working with a group of long-standing employees. And I think it's unfortunate the way the media wants to lampoon what is going on. These are highly trained professionals. You know, this is not some roving band going around doing things. This is methodical, and it is going to yield big savings.
Common sense is illegal in Washington. They can't get their mind around doing anything other than the Washington way. When somebody challenges the status quo, they go almost catatonic, or the exact opposite. They foam at the mouth, and they really get upset. They can make a Valium nervous. It's like the world, we're not doing things the way we've always done them, and the world's going to spin off its axis. That's what I mean when I say common sense is illegal in Washington, D.C. They've accused Mr. Musk of having conflicts of interest, and I've heard people say he's sitting over there with a notepad copying down everybody's social security number, and he's going to go use it to make money. I mean, people in this town, not just my Democratic colleagues, they're really upset. They've never said anybody question their spending. But that's what Mr. Musk is doing. And I've listened to people talk about the process and debate whether it's constitutional and discuss how many lawyers can dance on the head of a pin. Why aren't my colleagues talking about that? They're just talking about the process and Mr. Musk, and he's a mean guy, and he shouldn't be looking at our spending. Well, he is, and I kind of find what he's found out interesting. Now, I'm not saying everything that USAID does is wasted, but I'm saying a lot of it is. A hell of a lot of it is. And we ought to be on the floor of this United States Senate thanking Mr. Musk. And we ought to be asking him to go through every agency and look at everybody's budget. Everybody's budget. That's what the American people want. The American people are sick and tired of people in Washington denying reality. The last administration tried to convince us that we were living in a crime-free world where inflation was temporary and the border was secure. And the American people didn't buy it. You know why? Because it wasn't true.
They're screaming about Elon Musk over there, but hey, George Soros and his boy are okay. They scream that we're all a threat to democracy when they've been systematically dismantling democracy before our eyes. They've been caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and there's no going back. So I would tell my colleagues across the other side of the aisle, take your salty tears and sit right back down. USAID has become rotten to its core, sacrificing the prudent use of taxpayer dollars at the altar of advancing radical, sinister social and political agendas abroad. From discriminatory DEI initiatives to extreme gender ideology to marginalize real bona fide biological women. For decades, while homeless veterans sleep on our streets, our communities rebuild from natural disasters, and American families struggle to get by, USAID has pillaged and plundered the American treasury, essentially lighting American taxpayer dollars on fire, funding some of the dumbest I mean, stupidest, just dumbest initiatives imaginable, all supported by the left. And that's why their party is crumbling.
How is this going to work? I mean, are they just going to sue and stop the cuts? The Democrats and the senator now, they're just going to put a hold on all Trump nominees. What's that going to look like?
Well, they want to stop government from happening. I think that won't stop President Trump. Did they not learn anything with all the fake stuff they put before, all the false charges they put before him? It will not stop him. This is exactly what Elon did when he needed to turn around Tesla. I remember calling him and he said, look, I have about $1.5 billion left. I got to get to 5,000 cars produced. He's living in the factory. He removes engineers that don't know how, and he's hands-on retooling his own manufacturing to get the cars built. That's what he's volunteering to do for America today. You shouldn't be criticizing him. We should be celebrating him. And because this government has gotten too big, too large, why wouldn't you want to eliminate waste? They're going to fight over, these are small dollars, really. We need to find even the bigger ones, but this is just the beginning. And if they fight for this, I think the American public will even lead them further. Remember how far the Democratic Party has fallen in the polls, and I think it shows why.
Elon Musk, I have this to say to you on behalf of the American people. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been incredible. We really appreciate it. Keep going.
We've seen where USAID began as an idea built on hope and American generosity. But we've also seen what it's become, bloated, politicized, and protected by the bureaucracy more interested in control than results. We've seen subversion, we've seen corruption, we've seen money meant for good disappear into systems designed to waste it. And even after that, this video barely scratches the surface. 60 years of unchecked power can't be summed up in an hour. But we tried because someone has to. If you take nothing else away from this story, take this. Even 1% of our budget, when left unaccountable, can ruin lives at home and abroad. Not just through what it funds, but what it fails to fix. It's easy to give up. It's easy to let the anger settle in and to believe that everyone in government is evil, that nothing will change, and that it's all theater anyway. We understand that feeling. We've felt it too. But anger isn't a strategy, and hopelessness helps no one. This isn't a call for blind faith, it's a call to pay attention, to speak up, to investigate, and to ask hard questions, especially when no one else is willing to. That's what we do here at Congressional Radar. We'll keep watching, we'll keep digging, because somewhere in this mess, there's still something worth fighting for. And if you made it this far, maybe you think so too.
And then how many of you have been with the aid agency before? Well, I'm impressed by I wish all of our fellow Americans could listen to the litany of the countries to which you're going, all of them far away. Many of them countries about which most of us knew very little 2 decades ago, or even in the case of some of them a few years ago. Working with the people in those countries to try to work with them in developing the economic thrust of their country so that they can make a determination that they can solve their problems without resorting to totalitarian control and becoming part of the bloc. That's the issue. So that I hope that you have the satisfaction of realizing how significant this effort is. All these heads of state come to the United States to talk to us. One of the reasons is because we're engaged in this effort. So that this is very essential. I don't always know why we have so much difficulty explaining it, but we do, because the arguments are rather easy to make and do not require much thought against it. It's gone by every year, not in the way that the administrations want, but in the final analysis, the Congress has supported it. And in my judgment, I know very few occasions when members of Congress who have supported it and have suffered any political repercussions because they have supported it.
He found that the USAID has 10,000 people, employees. And every year they give away $40 billion. And I'm not saying that all of this money is wasteful. I'm not. Some of this money, I'm sure, does some good. That's why Secretary Rubio is going to revamp the department and separate the good from the bad.